Cops, what's the craziest thing you've done as part of the job? I worked undercover and spent 2.5 years getting initiated into a gang just to go undercover and destroy them from the inside. I started my operation a year ago when I expressed interest to one of the higher-ups in the gang. I started running small errands for them, selling small amounts, making basic runs. I was doing a lot of work for this gang, and due to me being in law enforcement, I had no risk involved legally. After a couple of months of being their best runner in this part of town, a title attributed with efficiency and quantity of runs made, I was slowly moving up. I should mention that this gang was a gang infamous for their brutality, with a lot of links to serious crimes and the substance trade. Everybody knew what was happening with this gang, but it had too many members from all over to try to destroy it completely. Instead, we tried seizing shipments, pinning the leaders and so on. I knew I had to be careful. After establishing myself as a great runner, I became a spotter. The things I had to do were crazy. I visited trap houses with queen bees and addicts that looked dead. I saw a man shoot up dope, and die minutes later right in front of me at a trap house. I saw a lot of stuff and it effed me up. It was very hard to concentrate on the task at hand, but I had to keep marching on. Now being a spotter, I was in charge of being on lookout for police while other members did what they had to. Exchanged money, entered trap houses that I did not, ran raids and whatnot. Slowly, I built up the trust of this gang and some of its members. I did my best to refrain from any emotional connection to any members as that would jeopardize it all. I saw terrible crimes be committed, girls becoming victims of rope and much worse. Girls having intimacy in exchange for dope. This gang in particular really exploited this. It was horrible and hard not to step in, but I had to look at the bigger picture. After running as a spotter and once again proving myself as reliable and trustworthy, I continued climbing the ranks. As time went on, I collected reports and kept tabs of criminal activities I could and overall gathered as much evidence as I could without getting spotted. Then I became a coordinator and everything changed. I was not looking out for cops or doing runs myself. Instead, I was instructing runners, keeping the area in check, and had to fend off rival gangs from our parts of town. I was still relatively unknown by the higher-ups, but I got a big break if you could call it. A rival gang tried to set up in our part of town. Being a coordinator, I needed to do something about it. One thing led to another, and a total of 7 men were involved in a shootout late at night near an abandoned warehouse. There were 4 of us and 3 of them. 2 of the people I was with sadly died during these. I got hit in my arm and the other in his leg. Out of the other 3 men, 1 died and the 2 others sped off. This night changed me. It was the first time I had experienced such a near-death situation. I had been caught up in some trouble before during this mission, but nothing like this. This event, as I said, caught some elders' attention. There were talks of me getting officially initiated. The initiation process into this gang was brutal. A group of 5 men had to lay into you at full force and you just had to take it. A tattoo on your arm of the gang symbol also had to be placed. The way I got my initiation was actually spotting. At this point I was still a coordinator, but we were doing a big-time raid of another gang's house. I was the getaway driver. I pulled up to the house and the others went in. One member of the rival gang was in the house, and he was unalived. However, other members just happened to be nearby. They spotted us, and as some of our members were leaving the house, another shootout occurred. I once again had to help. Once again fearing for my life, squeezing that trigger, watching young men with long lost and forgotten dreams drop dead. One of us was beside me and he got hit in the chest. He called out for his mom, his dead mom, and his last words were something about walking towards her. That still haunts me. We managed to make the getaway and luckily I was unarmed, but out of the 8 of us, 2 were dead, 3 others injured. This is how I got enough respect for an official initiation. The day came and I was ready. I was one step closer to breaking everything down. The day of the initiation is a blur. I remember bleeding after the wailing, and being injured badly, but I also remember laughing after. I got their symbol tattooed onto my left tricep. Now I was quite big time, and had the privilege of talking and meeting with higher-ups. I wasted no time getting to work. A few weeks later a meeting for all high-ranking members was held, and I was invited. My opinion was not needed nor did I speak at all during this meeting, but I listened like a hawk. This meeting was an overnight one. A night of drinking, a night of smoking, doing blow and hookers. I got hammered. Thankfully I didn't get so drunk that I blabbered the past 2.5 years of work away. My plan to listen carefully to the plan and lay out details to my superior at my job would have been heavily impinged would it not have been for hangover tongue strips. They're called morning recovery from Elevate strips to be exact. They actually prevented me from having a hangover, and I was able to recite all the information I found out to my superior with details. Where trades would be happening, when they would be happening, the code words used. I repeated this a few times with this gang, while running activities for them and earning respect and trust from the really high rankers. I kept attending meetings, using my hangover strip method. By this point, it wasn't even about busting one huge trade. I was ready to take down a huge part of this organization. I had a lot of evidence collected, years matter of fact. Had code words and names, faces, times and locations. I knew the business model from quite high up the food chain. Finally I told my superior that I am confident in the fact I have done all I can to go undercover successfully. The next big trade was happening in a week's time and we were ready. I was there with the gang when this trade happened. This trade happened to be one of the gang's biggest. I helped set up cameras and other devices necessary for pinpointing faces and helped out with the trade like every other time. The next week, law enforcement tracked down every single face the camera pointed to and seized the huge shipment. The leader of the whole gang was not there unfortunately, but I had met him and knew his face. It was also with my help that over the next few months that he was tracked down and arrested too. I'm proud of what I did. Some of the men I met in the gang were not bad men, Just caught up with the wrong crowd at a young age and nobody at home to support them. I look back at what I did with a mix of emotions, but I do not regret it, not one bit. Also, I'm going to get the initiation tattoo laser removed.